Hello everyone, I am Alyan and I am back again with another interview. And today I have very special guest. I have someone truly special with me, a global recognized marketing expert, best-selling author of book. So welcome, sir, to my show. How are you?
I'm great. I couldn't be better. This is one of the few times I've talked to someone in Pakistan. It's been a couple years, so I'm happy to see you.
Thank you so much. I am also too much happy. So before moving on the question, can you introduce yourself as well to my viewers?
Well, my name is Mark Schaefer. I've been in marketing for a very long time. I worked for a lot of big companies in America, brands that you might recognize like Microsoft or Dell, big pharmaceutical companies, transportation companies, hospitality companies, and I've worked with them as a marketing consultant. I'm also an author. I've written 12 books. I teach at a university around the New York City area, and I also go around the world and give speeches, which is the main thing I do these days. My books have become popular, and so I've been invited to go around the world to give speeches.
Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, sir. So my first question in your screen. So how did you find your way into marketing? Was it planned or did it happen by accident?
Well, when I was in the university, I was a journalism major. I thought I wanted to be a writer. And in my junior year of the university, this would be my third year, I took a class in marketing. And I really loved it. And I thought, well, I think maybe this is what I want to do. But it was too late to change my major. But once I got into the corporate world, I started in corporate communications, but then got additional education and made connections in my company that eventually got me into marketing. So I sort of fell into it when I took the university class, but after that, it was very intentional.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So what was the moment you realized marketing was not just selling, that it was something deeper? You can also see my question screen.
Yeah, some of the questions cut off there, but yeah. Uh, well, I think what really is so amazing to me is that in there's a man named Philip Kotler, who many regard as the father of modern marketing, and he described marketing as a combination of psychology, sociology, and anthropology. It means like marketing is all things human. And today we might think of marketing as advertising, or we might think of it as technology. But when you get right down to it, it's really the most human career you can have. And that really has always appealed to me. And that's what makes me excited about marketing.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for your answer. So my next question in your screen, you have worked with brands like Dell, AT&T, and Adidas. What did your first break look like, and what would you tell 16 years old version of yourself today?
Well, I don't think I really had a big break. It's really consistent work. So, I had a big corporate job. I started off when I started in my first corporate job. I had like the worst job in the company. Everybody knew it was the worst job in the company, but I did a good job and I was enthusiastic. And eventually I was rewarded and moved up the company. When I started my own company, about, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, it was almost like starting over in a way. And I had to earn my way all over again. And even though, as you mentioned, I worked for all these big brands and all these big companies, um, my first customer was a food caterer, right? So because I had to be humble, I was starting over, and you just work and work and work and work and work, and you do a little bit better every day, and you're generous and you're helpful, and I've published content consistently, and I became known in my space. So there wasn't any big break. There wasn't any big, in America, we call it the hockey stick, right? This big, quick, rapid development. And nothing like that happens for most people, really. It's just you just keep on working and you don't give up.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your answer, sir. So, in Audacious, you argue that human win in AI marketing a world by becoming more human. What does more human actually look like in practice for young creators?
Well, this is a term that's tossed around a lot. This idea of being human or being more human, and to me, it's really about being more than competent, about being brave with your content. If you're competent in your work, if you're competent in what you publish, whether it's a video or a podcast or a blog or whatever you're doing, then you're vulnerable because AI is competent. You're more than that. You're ignorable because competent is just average, right? It's just boring. So you really need to dig down and think about, how do you add your story? How do you add your personality to your content, to whatever you're doing? And that's really the core element of my book, Audacious. It explores 3 different ways you can disrupt the story, disrupt the content to try to do something different. And that's something everyone needs to pay attention to, because AI is here, but there's still a room for human stories and human creativity.
Right. Thank you so much for your answer. So, marketing rebellion claimed that the customer is the marketer now. If that's true, what actually left for traditional marketer to do?
Well, I think in the old days, and even for many businesses now, a lot of people think marketing is just holding a megaphone and talking about your product. And today, most sales occur not from what a company says, but what our friends tell us. So, not long ago, I needed a new suitcase. And I remember that a friend of mine had posted something on Facebook 2 years ago about this amazing suitcase that he bought. So I wrote him a note. I said, "What suitcase did you recommend? Because I trust this guy." He said, "Oh, it was such and such a brand." So I went and I bought the suitcase. I didn't see any ads. I didn't see any marketing. I didn't see any YouTube videos. I just bought it because I trust him. So that's an example of how marketing is really owned by the customers today. But there's still a role in marketing to create a product, to create a story so great that people want to talk about it, right? My friend would never have known about that great suitcase if there hadn't been marketing behind it, if there hadn't been a great, product behind it. So really marketing, I think today, there's still a role for promotion. But I think a bigger role for marketing today is to come alongside customers at their point of need and create an experience that is so cool and so worthy and so conversational that people can't wait to talk about it.
All right. Thank you so much for explaining this. Okay, sir. So my next question is: known is one of the most cited books on personal branding. What's the biggest myth about personal branding that you wish you could destroy?
Well, when most people create their personal brands and I look at their website, it talks about, typically it talks about a lot of the awards that they won, about how great they are. And nobody really cares. A very effective personal brand, it's not about you, it's about serving others. And so that's a real problem. I think that a personal brand thinks it's about bragging about yourself when really it's being very, very clear about the problem you solve and how you help others.
Okay, sir. Thanks so much for your answer. So, belonging to the brand, focus on community. What the difference between an audience and a community, and why does it matter?
Well, it matters a lot. I actually wrote a blog post about that this week, yesterday, about this very subject, because people confuse this all the time. And the big difference between an audience and a community is that in a community, people know each other. So, for example, I have a blog. I have a I for 13 years I had a podcast like you, but the people who read my blog, they don't know each other. So it's not a community, it's an audience. And an audience is great. It's very important to have an audience. But if you really want to have the strongest emotional connection for your brand, that comes in a community. Because when people become friends with each other, that goodwill transfers to you. It transfers to your brand. And what we're trying to do is build an emotional connection to our company or to ourselves or to our brand. And so community is the strongest way to do that. An audience is fine, but a community is one step beyond that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for explaining. So, you build Markbot and AI trained on your own work. What surprised you most about interacting with your own AI work?
It's a lot smarter than me. uh, the MarkBot has just been an experiment. It's free. Anybody can use it on my website, and a lot of people use it, and some people use it every day. And one woman wrote me a note, and she said, "I just have to tell you, I had this very, very hard problem that I put into MarkBot, and this is the answer that it gave me." And when I read the answer, it was really so elegant and wise. I thought, wow, that's an answer I never could have come up with. So MarkBot, it does a better job than me.
All right, sir. I will try as well. Okay. So many young people fear AI will take their job before they can even start a career. What would you say to them?
Well, we already touched on this a little bit, and that's the idea of having a personal brand, of being out there, creating content, becoming known. Because if people have heard of you, you'll have more opportunities, you'll have more calls returned. And if you're in the interview process and you've been working on your personal brand and you've been building an audience or building a community, then you can demonstrate that to the employer and say, look, don't just take my word for it. Look at this content I've created. Look at this community or this audience that I've built. And you can see for yourself how I work, what I do, how I think. And that will be a great advantage to you as you go looking for a job.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So my next question is, what's one marketing trend everyone chasing right now and that you think is a complete waste of time?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a complete waste of time, but it's a waste of time for many, many companies, and that is search engine optimization. And some people might be surprised when I say that, but for most businesses to win in SEO, you can only win and become one of the top results. If you are in an industry with relatively few or no competitors and you have lots of resources to throw at it, and there aren't many businesses I know that fit that profile. With AI, it gets even worse because AI doesn't provide a list of possible links for you to click. It's one answer. So now you're not like a possibility. You have to win the top answer. And that's literally nearly impossible for most businesses. Um, SEO, trying to drive web traffic, is almost impossible these days. I just think it's kind of an anachronistic tool, and I think it kind of goes back to the personal brand idea, is that it's much better, much easier, I think, today to get them to earn a mailing list, of people who are interested in you through your content, and not be dependent on SEO algorithms.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for explaining. So, I am 17 and just starting to build my brand through this podcast. If you were starting your personal brand today at my age, what's the very first thing you do?
I would buy the best-selling book on personal branding. It's called Known, uh, and it's a book that it took 2 years of research for me to write, and I became frustrated because many people would hire me to do a coaching call, and they're looking for a job, or they want to start a career, they want to write a book, they want to sell a course, they want to grow a podcast. And I'd say, well, you kind of have to become known. And the next question would be, how do I become known? And I said, I don't know. And I asked a good friend of mine, can anybody become known? Or do you need a special personality? And he said, I don't know, but I'd pay good money to find out. So I got curious about it. And I interviewed 97 people around the world on what they did to become known. And they all did the same 4 things. And it's not easy. It takes work. It takes patience. It takes time. You have to be consistent. You can't give up, but it works. And this book is almost 10 years old, and it is still my best-selling book even today because it works. It absolutely works. And I'm not trying to be salesy, but if you really want to know how to build your personal brand, that's the way to do it.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So, should every student build a personal brand, or is that a bad advice we should try?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know every student. I don't know every situation that people are in. There's a chapter in my book where I try to talk people out of it sometimes. I mean, sometimes the time just isn't right. Let's say you have to work to pay off a debt. You have to work to take care of a sick parent or a sick child or something like that. And maybe the time just isn't right to create your personal brand. But if the time is right, and the only thing that's keeping you back is fear, then you need to transcend that, because it is really, really important. In the world of AI, this is the last sustainable advantage we have left. I'll tell you a quick story. When ChatGPT came out, I immediately saw how powerful this was, the impact it was going to have on our careers and our work. And I called a very famous tech analyst in New York. And I said, what do you think? Did you try ChatGPT? He said, I tried it and I'm terrified. He said, I've written a blog post Every day of my life for the last 15 years, I just asked ChatGPT to write a blog post for me, and it did a perfect job in 3 seconds. He said, I am 80% replaced. Now, on the surface, that does seem terrifying. But here's the more important question. What's the 20% that isn't being replaced? That is his personal brand. He is known, he is trusted, he is beloved, and that is the one thing AI can never replace.
All right, sir. Thanks so much for your answer. So, what's the biggest professional mistake you have made, and what did it actually teach you?
Oh, I don't really dwell on mistakes that much. Um, I think, every time you make a mistake, it's just a way to grow. It's someone once said, um, when you, it, it's not a mistake. It's just a path toward your progress and learning. I think the times I've gotten into trouble have been when I listened to my heart over my head, meaning like I got into a situation where intellectually I knew this wasn't going to work. But my heart was saying, oh, but you love this so much, or you believe in this person so much, you've got to support it. And I kind of knew it wasn't going to work. So that would be the mistake I've made probably a few times in my life.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So, if a Pakistani student with no connection, no money, and just a laptop wanted to break into global marketing, what would their actual playbook look like?
Well, first of all, I would do exactly what you're doing. You're creating content. You're reaching out to people like me for advice and help. I think you really have to immerse yourself in the world of AI. That would be number one. I just don't see how you can get a job today if you really aren't working with AI and trying to learn about it every single day. So that would be number one. Just roll up your sleeves and learn about it as much as you can. Number two would be work on your personal brand, create content, become known, start making connections, start networking. And number three would be to create a presence on the web and try to help people. Be generous, be kind. If there are people that you want to connect with, leave comments on their LinkedIn posts. Help share their content. See if there are ways that you could help them. To really do great networking, you have to give, and then ask. So those would be the three things I would recommend.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for this recommendation. So, my last question is, what one piece of advice which someone had given you at 16 that you had given me right now?
Well, I think, again, it would be working on your personal brand and becoming known in an effective way on the web. And this is something I didn't even listen to myself when I was an adult. I resisted it. I'm an introverted person. I don't like to be the center of attention. I don't like, people, leaving me comments and engaging with me. It makes me uncomfortable. And so I think I had my company like 8 years. I didn't even have my picture on my own website. I was so I was so shy. And then I realized as my personal brand was growing that you can't fall in love with a logo. You can't fall in love with a website, but you can fall in love with a person. And that's how you sell things. That's how you get ahead. When people trust you and they know you, and maybe they even love you. Certainly they, like you. And then they're going to turn to you to help them with their business. They're going to need your assistance, or they're going to want to hire you, or they're going to want to buy your product. So I think I was very shy, and I resisted the whole idea of putting myself out there first. It's something I'm still working on, but that is one thing I wish I would have done a lot earlier in my life.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful answer, and that brings us to end of this episode. So, thank you, sir, Mark, for sharing your wisdom with me and my listener. It truly means a lot to everyone watching. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your good questions.
Thank you so much.